morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel. Part 2, kind of a follow-up story. We're also going to discuss some current news regarding gold, the price of gold, because it ties very well into the main highlight discussion of today, and that is revisiting the story with Canada selling all of their gold. What and why and how. You look at gold prices today, up pretty well. I would call it a healthy little bump, up 1.28%, $16.10 last time I checked, at around $12.73. So gold's closing in on $1,300 again, absolutely defying what a lot of the mainstream financial networks claimed was going to happen to gold in 2016. It just goes to show you can't trust anyone, and you can't believe anything you're told, not even from me or from anybody. It's just no one really knows what's going to happen and what the future holds, and this is pretty much proof of that. Yeah, we thought this might happen, but it's just continuing to prove itself, and we still have a lot of skeptics saying that gold's probably going to sell off sometime in May, sell in May, go away, and that there could be a dip after this, but who knows? It might not. It very well may go further than this. And just prior to this, and I do understand some of you that live in Canada obviously pay more attention to what's happening there than we outside of Canada do. So this is very close to home for you, and a lot of you are very aware of Canada losing and selling all of its gold prior to us becoming informed of the situation. And I understand we're a little late to the game here, a little late to the story, that this has been going on for some time, and a lot of the gold was sold earlier than now, and than even in recent history. So this is a decades old and years old problem, but it really is just hitting the news now, and you'll see there's 2 news stories out about it. I definitely appreciate those of you here on the channel that help in bringing awareness to this type of thing, and yeah, your finger on the pulse in different areas. And that's what's so great about this little community, is you guys are able to send a piece of information, perk my interest, and then I dive down the rabbit hole and who knows what I find. But that's kind of how this whole story started originally, and it's now making more news internationally. And here's a headline: and then there was none. Canada sells its gold. Another headline: Ottawa sells off almost all of its gold reserves, leaving just 77 ounces or less. So the nation of Canada has less than some healthy stacking members of the community, which is definitely unnerving for any nation, and any nation that thinks they're going to bode well in coming economic crises. Now, we're going to cover different parts of this, but Canada's selling all of its gold, and we talked about it last time as to why and what are they doing with the money. It sounds like they're buying other currencies with it, which to me doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But you look at this article, and there's a lot to read here, but we'll go through some of it. Canada bucking an international trend that has seen central banks become net buyers of gold since 2010, has sold off all its official gold holdings. Canada's official international reserves, last released by the Bank of Canada on February 23, 2016, showed gold reserves at 0. This is unprecedented. Canada now stands as the only G7 nation that does not hold at least 100 tons of gold in its official reserves. According to statistics from the World Gold Council, Canada's current holdings would now rank it dead last out of 100 central banks, behind Albania at number 99. A footnote says that the Bank of Canada still holds 77 ounces of gold, primarily in gold coins, likely in someone's desk somewhere. Official international reserves. The weekly reserves data will be posted on the Bank of Canada's website on the first business day following the 8th, 15th, and 23rd day of each month. The monthly reserves data will be posted on the Department of Finance website on the 3rd business day following month's end. Between 1999 and 2002, the United Kingdom, under the auspices of the Bank of England, sold roughly 395 tons of gold, representing over half of the UK's gold position. The UK pre-announced the sales and held 17 auctions during the period. We've talked about this, guys. You guys are very familiar with this, so pay attention. The era became known as Brown's Bottom, or Brown's Down. named after Gordon Brown, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, how do you pronounce that, at the time. The immediate reaction was a 10% decline in the price of gold. Gold traded between US 253 an ounce and 350 an ounce during the period, with the UK averaging roughly 275 an ounce for its gold and raising about 3.5 billion US dollars. Based on today's prices of roughly US 1,270 an ounce, the UK gold, if sold today, would be worth around 16 billion. Now remember, they bought a lot of those mortgage-backed securities. I'm not too sure that England did well on that deal. While gold prices are up 335% since 1999, the US dollar and the euro, the two prime currencies that the Bank of England would have substituted for its gold holdings, have declined in value. Okay, will Canada's sale of its gold become known as Pelote's bottom? Named after the Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Pelote, it's possible, especially if gold was to rise sharply in the coming years as it did following Brown's bottom. The UK's reasoning for selling its gold at the time was that it wanted to diversify its assets away from gold, which was deemed to be too volatile. Brown's action attracted a lot of criticism, and in order to deal with this sale, a consortium of central banks led by the European Central Bank and the Bank of England signed the Washington Agreement in September of 1999, limiting gold sales to 400 tons per year for the next 5 years. That agreement was renewed in 2004 and again in 2009. Yes, Canada is defying what I would consider astute nations and other central banks are doing. You look at gold reserves in tons here from some selected countries: China, Russia, Brazil, Turkey, Mexico, Kazakhstan. If you look at their gold reserves in 2009, and then look at them in 2015. All of these countries have a net increase of quite a bit in their gold holdings. Looking back in 1960, Canada held more than 1,000 tons of gold. So from 1960 to now, Canada's dumped 1,000 tons of gold. Now, why and how? What's forcing that? Obviously, they're doing it out of pressure or to bankroll socialist programs in the country. As we all know, Canada has a lot of socialism and is very steeped in socialist ideology. A lot of people joke that, yeah, you can get free healthcare in Canada, but at what costs? I know from personal experience living here in America that a lot of Canadians come to use healthcare in America, or they come to receive healthcare in America in a more timely and quality fashion. There's no criticism of your healthcare or your doctors. I'm just saying a lot of them are able to get to the front of the line here quicker for the procedures they want. Continuing on to another part of the story, the government of Canada has wound down its gold reserves to basically nothing after a multi-year strategy of selling them off in favor of hoarding other countries' currencies instead. So here we go. Here we are finding out more that they are investing in other countries' currencies in place of holding gold bullion. According to the Department of Finance's official international reserves data released Thursday, Canada's gold reserves are down effectively to zero, as we just talked about, as of the end of February. That's the value that Ottawa assigns its gold holdings from an accounting perspective. In fact, Ottawa still has, as we discussed, 77 ounces worth approximately $130,000 Canadian at current market prices. All of that consists of gold coins as opposed to large bullion bars or bricks that the government once hoarded. Going back to what we just discussed, when Canada held 1,000 tons of gold. In contrast to this, other countries are still hoarding gold. This doesn't mean that all governments are selling off their gold hoards. I think actually that Canada is in a very small minority of nations. Compared to, of course, Russia and India and China, they're some of the biggest buyers, currently bolstering their reserves. Central banks added 336 tons to their reserves in the second half of last year, a 25% increase from the previous year. That's according to the World Gold Council. In February, the U.S., I know a lot of you are skeptical on when the U.S. releases numbers about their gold, but this is according to the current media sites and outlets. Without diving into too much conspiracy, the U.S. supposedly holds about 8,133 tons of gold, which made up 72% of its reserves. Germany, 3,381 tons, or 66% of its reserves last month, while Italy and France each held more than 2,400 tons, over 60% of their respective reserves. Compare that to Canada, even in 1960, only holding 1,000 tons. So Canada, you guys have no gold. You're going to be facing something here, and I would definitely, as private citizens in Canada, take heed of what's going on, take this information, and use it to your advantage, because who knows, one of these days you might be the wealthiest people in Canada when you're left with all the gold. Now we're going to pull apart some headlines that show why what Canada did might not be the best idea and the best move for their country. So here they have been for the last so many years, been selling and unloading gold, driving their gold reserves down effectively to zero, unless you guys want to get really particular and actually count the 77 ounces as reserves. But so they have no gold left. And amidst all of that, the news is showing that gold beat everything in 2016. We're seeing headlines saying things like why gold could climb nearly 20% in the next 12 months. We're seeing currencies all over the world lose value, being overinflated and manipulated by the governments. Markets are losing faith in the European Central Bank as mass stimulus measures falter. Look at these headlines. Look what's going on, okay? Gold is the best start since 1974, and it's not just an inflation hedge anymore. As deflation looms, metal has the best start since 1974. Gold investors are on the longest buying spree in 5 years. Gold rally is a study in perfection, according to Stuart Thompson. That was just to paint a picture that at this current climate, at this current time in the world economy, gold is doing well. I think all of you would agree that right now gold is kind of on a streak. Well, Canada, what happens now? What's next for you, for your currency, for your purchasing power, for your store of wealth? I'm talking directly to those of you who live on the other side of the border, up in the land of poutine and maple syrup. Here's an article we found today, Gold and Paper, 1951 to 2016. Just 3 simple slides with a couple of examples. You look there, you've got that US gold coin there. It took 117 Argentina 5 peso notes to get that coin back in 1951. But after government meddling and central bank printing, which is very likely to occur in Canada in order to cover the costs of doing business with a socialist type government, it now takes, look at that. What is that? It now takes, 20 quadrillion Argentino 5 peso notes to buy that same gold coin. That, my friends, is hyperinflation. That slide alone should paint a picture of what governments can do to the purchasing power of a currency. That alone. Let's continue onward. This is the United States now. Back in 1951, it took 7 $5 bills. This will hit home for a lot of you here in the United States. 7 $5 bills to buy that gold coin. That 1 ounce gold coin. Now it takes 250 $5 bills. So now I'm talking to you U.S. citizens. We just saw a slide, well, what happened in Argentina? Now what happens when it takes 500 $5 bills to buy an ounce of gold? 1,000. What happens when it takes 1,000 $5 bills to buy an ounce of gold coin? It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not impossible. We just saw slides where it's happened. And there are other currencies in which that has happened. So we're not immune. There is no immunity here, and there are no rules or laws in place that protect and exempt countries like the United States and countries like Canada from the effects of inflation and hyperinflation. We have no immunity. It is like economic AIDS. We can contract it, and we can die from it, we can suffer from it, and it can destroy our economy's immune system permanently. So pay attention to that fact there alone. Feel vulnerable. Take notice. There is a vulnerability there. We are all vulnerable to that type of a situation. It can happen. And the author of that article closes out with this slide here, which is very fitting. There's no trap so deadly as a trap you set for yourself. He's got that image of the printing presses going full speed as usual, just cranking out notes. Well, the result of that is economic death. Hyperinflation. The death of a currency. The extinction of a currency. Is that going to happen to Canada? I don't know. There's no way for me to know that. What the ultimate fallout from this will be is anyone's guess. I'm sure there's teams of people working on it. But at this point, all I would do is warn my friends in Canada, because there are many of you that are part of this channel, that to continue to monitor your situation, assess your surroundings, and change your individual circumstances so that at the end of this scenario, hopefully you can come out on top. Hopefully you can win. Hopefully you can survive it and protect your family's wealth, your dynasty, as we've discussed in the past. Those principles of maintaining all the value and the stores of energy that you've put forward in life, in working, in laboring, in your efforts, in all of your production, stored away in some gold, and it will not erode, it will not rot, it will not be destroyed by the actions of government meddling, central bank printing, easy interest rates, inflation and mass production of currencies, quantitative easing programs, socialist welfare states. It won't be destroyed. Your labor, your work, your life's work is safe being stored in gold. I can promise you that. Unless a thief steals it, which hopefully you can protect it. And that's what you need. You need to be vigilant and protect it. Because it's obvious when a thief breaks down your door and steals something that belongs to you. But it's not as obvious and clear when it's a government doing it through the hidden actions and secrecy of inflation, government meddling, and central bank manipulations of currencies. It's not as obvious, but when you wake up tomorrow morning and a carton of eggs is $25 and a gallon of milk is $35, that's theft. It's a different kind of theft. It's the theft of the inflation tax. And again, we're all vulnerable to it. None of us are immune to it. So resist tyranny, resist the government when it comes to them stealing your wealth away, and buy yourself some gold and feel good about it. And silver, both of which are good stores of value at these times. I hope this video finds all of you well. I hope it encourages you in your continuation to stack, your continuation to procure metals, and to immunize yourself from the actions of government. Thanks for participating. Thanks for your comments, for your views. Please like, share, and subscribe the video if you haven't done so already. You guys sharing these videos is what really helps this community grow. It's what increases the number of people and participants here that take part in these conversations. So please, again, share the video and continue to be part of the Junius Multi program here. Thanks, and have a good day.